If you remember at the very beginning of the year, we discussed why history is important, reasons to study history. One of those reasons was if you study history, you can learn from past mistakes and avoid repeating them in the future. Think about why World War I started. You had all these secret alliances, you had strong nationalism, and someone has to throw the first stone. You had the assassination of that Archduke in World War I, and that's kind of the first stone that was thrown. Now you got to think, all right, World War II. How does World War II start? That's what our lesson is about today. So, during our lesson today, look for how does World War II begin? Who throws the first stone? All right, so we're getting started with our first lesson on World War II. Our objective for today, we want to summarize the causes of World War II and the events that led the United States to enter it. So, the Great Depression terribly hurt not only America, but also countries in Europe. Millions of people were jobless and hungry. They began to look for strong leaders. So, lots of countries in Europe, you have some that end up having dictators. So write that down as a vocabulary word. A ruler who has total power over a country and its people. Today, North Korea, they would have what's considered a dictator. Nazi Germany is one of those countries. You all know that the dictator there was Adolf Hitler. He came to power, and there's Germany on the European map. In Italy, you have Benito Mussolini, who is another dictator. And in September 1939, you have Hitler's army, which invades Poland. And that's kind of the first stone thrown in World War II. So Poland, Britain, and France, they declare war on Germany, which means now we have several countries and World War II begins. Japan, they end up joining the Axis powers, which consist of Italy with Benito Mussolini, Germany with Hitler, and then Japan. So those three countries would be the Axis powers. You should write those down. Axis powers, Japan, Italy, and Germany. They take over part of China and much of the Pacific Ocean. They're working on the Pacific front. You have two fronts for World War II. You have the European front, and then you have the Pacific front. Here's a map at the start of World War II here. Here is also a map. This is in the years 1941 to 1942. So you have the Allies, and Russia is part of that. The UK is part of that. Britain is part of that. And then you have the German occupied areas, so they are able to take over all of this stuff. Between Italy and Germany, they're taking over much of Europe, and that's how that map looks. Now, why would America join this war? We're all the way on, we're not by Europe, we're not by Japan, so there's really no reason for us to get involved unless the war poses a threat to our homeland. And so America does go to war, not right away, not in 1939, not until after Pearl Harbor, 1941. This is the reason we enter World War II. There are other reasons, but this was the main one. We could not ignore the attack on Pearl Harbor. Japanese airplanes, they were close enough to where they could take off from their ships and fly over Pearl Harbor and just start bombing Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Dozens of American military ships and planes were destroyed, and that was their goal, to destroy our ships and our planes, so that if we joined the war, we couldn't use them against Japan. Roosevelt gave a famous speech that said, "This is a date that will live in infamy." And the US immediately joins the war on the side of the Allies, with Russia and with Great Britain and countries like that. Today we have a memorial at Pearl Harbor. This is one of the ships that sank, and there was a memorial built on top of that ship. And inside that memorial, that's a museum in there. You can visit that if you ever go to Hawaii. In review, looking at the reasons that started World War I, the alliances, the assassination, which was the first stone, the nationalism, same things are happening in World War II. Strong nationalism in Italy and Germany, in Japan, where they want to prove their nation is better than all the other nations of the world. You have alliances forming between those countries. And then you have the first stone, Germany invading Poland. You have the other alliances that join in, and that's the start of World War II. Another thing to consider, all those reparations forced on Germany, think that might have played a part in them wanting to prove they were the top country? When you have a whole war fought between all these countries, and Germany is told, you have to take responsibility for everything. It's your fault the war started. You have to pay reparations. You're not allowed to have a full military. You're not allowed to have a full navy. Your economy is destroyed because of all this money that you're paying out to all these other nations. If those reparations wouldn't have been so severe, who knows, maybe there is a chance that World War II could have been avoided. That's all for our lesson today. Tomorrow, we'll get into more of what happened in World War II.